Hello, welcome to Paradigms at paradigms.life. I'm Baruch, host of the show. Thanks for tuning in. Paradigms exists to bring you inspiring people with visions of a viable future for life on Earth that includes humans. And that's exactly what we're doing with this guest, who is a wonderful musician. So happy to welcome her back to the show. She's got a great project going on right now, Concerts for Democracy. And she's going to tell us all about it, and we're going to hear some of her great music right now on this episode of Paradigms. Eljuri, welcome back to Paradigms.
Oh my God, what a treat to be connecting with you again, my dear friend.
Just love talking with you.
Querido amigo, sí.
And what you're doing.
Oh, I'm so excited. So excited.
So you have got this new project now, Concerts for Democracy, Amplifying Voices for Social Change. Wow.
It's very exciting, and it stemmed from some workshops I did in a couple of different cities that were partnered with concerts. I did an Eljuri concert, and then I would do a workshop, and it was about how to find your own voice, that your voice is your power. And these workshops I did in different countries, in English and Spanish. I did it in Bogota, in Colombia, I did it in Canada and Mexico City, and I did it in New York. And this was always stirring in my brain, this, concerts with workshop thing. And then this year, I was like really thinking this is an important year to focus on the United States and the issues surrounding our upcoming elections and the necessity for the Latinos to use their voice, in particular with the power of the vote.
Absolutely.
And that's where the Eljuri Concerts for Democracy was born. In about January, February of this year, I was brainstorming with people on my label, and now I have volunteers who are also part of the team. It's very, very, very exciting.
I mean, first of all, art and politics are no strangers to each other, and art and empowerment, and so for you to bring your amazing creativity, and I just love your music so much, for you to bring all of who you are as a person of conscience through this music to people, it's really wonderful. And as you say, it's such an important election year in the United States, and people have a lot of different thoughts and feelings about it. But I want to know, first of all, like in these concerts and the workshops that go with them, what is the discussion? What are you sort of picking up from people, and what's the vibe you're sussing out?
Well, we haven't done the U.S. voting concerts yet. They're going to launch soon, but the concept is basically gathering people for an Eljuri concert where I sing, my socially conscious songs about, resilience and, fighting injustice and climate change, and all those songs will be floating around during the concert. And then I'm going to encourage people after the concert. We're going to have a bunch of tables set up with our voting registration partners, particularly Headcount. I'm a Headcount ambassador. So they set up a giant table with tents, and people will gather after the concert, and I will go there. They're going to be set up during the concert as well. I'll go do like gathering after the concert to get people to register to vote. And what's amazing about an organization like Headcount, that we're gathering several organizations, but that's our lead organization, is that they have the materials in English and in Spanish. They developed a lot of materials. We want to take the fear of registering away. We want to inspire people to use their voice. And again, democracy being at stake this year, we thought it was the most important place to put our energy. The gathering will be explaining how you do everything, the materials, answering any questions. And actually, you can actually sign up to register right there. The person has to do it. We can't make them do it. It's a nonpartisan event, but I still believe everybody should use their voice. Obviously, the more voices, the more representation you have. So we want to inspire people to recognize the value of the vote. They will sign up. We will take the registration materials, Headcount will, and actually put it in the mail for everybody so that you don't have to go home, have them toss it on the table and run to change the diapers or whatever, or, dinner, whatever people's busy days are filled with. So that's the goal. Attracting a multi-generational audience is critical. I'm saying a lot in Spanish, so we're partnering with a lot of Latino organizations to also bring their people into this situation. That's like the crux of it, Baruch. Yeah.
we hear so many different things about gerrymandering House districts and people being purged from voter lists and don't know that's happened, and people being intimidated to go vote, especially elders and migrants, or people for whom English is not a first language, even if they are not migrants. And so there's been all this sort of fear mongering to try and get people not to vote. And, I'm not going to point fingers, but I don't really need to. What you're doing is like an antidote to that. It's like really encouraging people, get out there, vote. Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah. And the events are going to be free, which is another critical part of the whole thing, to draw people to, like, as you said, so they take away the fear, to take away the apathy in some cases, the indifference in other cases. And we have head count that's going to be involved. We have two other organizations that are also intertwined with, which is incredibly important partnerships, Spread the Vote and Every Vote Counts. The Spread the Vote organization is dedicated to helping people get IDs. So if somebody doesn't have an identification, they can't register to vote in many states, not all states, but many states. So that's another deterrent. And people then they get overwhelmed with that, which is understandable. Again, you're busy with so much is going on and you're trying to just feed your family. You're not worried about the complications of getting a voter ID. I mean, an ID, and then it becomes your voter ID, which is the goal of this organization. And then there's Every Vote Counts, which is a college run organization. So it's trying to get a lot of the college level students, but they also focus on high school, which is fascinating for the kids who are 17, about to turn 18, to teach civic engagement, because that's also lacking. So those three organizations are who we partnered with.
The voter ID thing is controversial, and for some folks, they're afraid to just have their name in the system that way. Some folks I know say, well, what's the big deal to have an ID to vote? And, it's never been the law of the land in the United States. And in fact, there's such small incidences of voter fraud that it seems to me to be unnecessary, but I understand that some people want it and some people are pushing for it. In some states, they require it now. When I was getting my therapist license in some state or other, and I had to be fingerprinted, I remember talking with one of my brothers about, I'm going to be fingerprinted. And he laughed and said, you think they don't have your fingerprints already? And so for people who are afraid of having your name in the system, it's already there.
True. But we also want to tear walls down.
Absolutely.
That are being intentionally put up to try to prevent the underrepresented and the people who are just the voiceless. We want to give a voice to the voiceless. Eso es muy importante. That's very, very important. I'm an immigrant. I know what my parents went through. I grew up as an immigrant, a Latina. I understand the complexities. So we're doing concerts in one city. We also know the network of the Latino community tends to be really powerful in the U.S. So an abuelita, a grandmother that goes to the concert in Chicago might share whatever she learns there with her nephew in Texas, or her, cousin in Florida. And that's the way the Latinos we are connected. A lot of us, I don't want to generalize, but a lot that way, because of neighboring countries coming into the U.S. into different pockets. So we also feel that reach is really important, to get that message out of don't be afraid to vote, the importance of the vote. And I keep going back to how important representation is.
I'm talking with Eljuri, who is just a fantastic human being, as you can tell, with great motives and great intentions with her Concerts for Democracy. And as the United States celebrates Independence Day, let us remember that this country was founded on democratic principles. Even though it was never a complete democracy, it has always been moving towards a more democratic, egalitarian vision. The coming election threatens that, so it's really important that people get out and vote. Thank you, Eljuri, for your efforts. We'll be back with more of this conversation after we hear some music from Eljuri. We're going to start out with the title track of one of her records, La Lucha. Here we go. This is Paradigms at paradigms.life. just heard Eljuri from her latest album, Reflexion, with Shelter. And before that, La Lucha. And now here's the next part of my conversation with Eljuri.
Let's go into fantasy for a moment. Let's imagine
Okay.
that this election goes the way we want, whatever that is. What are some of the things you'd like to see happen in the United States if our politics allow?
If we also get the Congress balanced, as I would prefer, we would address women's issues, immigrants' rights, the environment. Those are just off the top of my head. There's so many. We also want to encourage people not just to answer your question, not to just to vote for the presidential aspect, but down ballot as well. Local elections matter. Your, classroom president matters. Your union leader matters. Your PTA person, the church leader, and maybe inspire people to become those roles because they go, well, I don't see anybody who looks like me or thinks like me or has my policies or perspectives in mind. Maybe they'll put themselves in there. So all of that hopefully will inspire.
I think that, what we're talking about is increased engagement. And the more people engage with all of these things, as you're describing, from the school board to the PTA to the state legislature to the presidency, the more engagement, the better. Because what we want is for government to actually reflect the people, not just small segments of the people. Right now, we have sort of government buy-in for special interests way too much. It's way out of balance. And there are, the Citizens United decision from the Supreme Court legitimized huge amounts of cash flowing into the election processes. But we can get all this back.
The Supreme Court is not representing the people.
Right, exactly.
So that's another thing. I just was pulling up this. Americans for the Arts studies indicate that engagement with the arts heightens awareness of rights, with art goers showing a 20% higher likelihood of voting compared to non-attendees. Additionally, art activities boost community members' interest in local issues and projects by 86%. So we're trying to draw people attention to this mindset of self-empowerment with your voice through music, which is really uniting, and stop the polarization. Let's really think about who's running the country, the government, your classroom again, your school board or whatever, your union leaders, and think about who represents you and get in there if there's nobody there who does. And make the changes. We need people who believe in policies. The other problem with the Latino community, besides the need for more engagement, because there's a lot of blocks being put up, not blaming the Latinos, is also the mis and disinformation that's out there, Baruch. That's very challenging, and it's important to have those conversations, and we're hoping that in these gatherings, those conversations would be ignited just about facts.
My approach to disinformation and misinformation is if something gets a rise out of me, verify. Because if it gets a rise out of me, it's designed to, and that means I want to check the veracity. And I like to look in more than one place to see if things are true, because nowadays you just don't know.
Yes.
But the other thing about all this is, voting is so important. We're talking about what needs to be fixed, what are the problems. But I also want to say all this engagement, if it happens, let's think about the really great stuff that can happen as a result of that.
Exactly. The celebration.
Exactly. Like imagine that your kid loves going to school because they're actually learning cool stuff, not having religion forced on them or any ideology at all. Imagine that
gun laws, the reasonable gun laws get passed.
Yeah.
Yes, that the people are not going to be attacked because they don't follow the old gender norms, or people going to, like you said, can read a history book that really talks about history.
That would be nice. And the environment, we saw a lot of environmental regulations stripped away. We see the current president doing his best to restore them, but, it's easier to strip them away than it is to put them back. And the reality is, environmental regulations are stripped away solely so that corporations can pollute, which means they don't have to spend money cleaning things up, which increases their profit margin. But is it worth it to have wealthy corporations if you can't breathe the air and you can't drink the water? How are your children going to live? So we've got to shift, and I feel like we're on the crux of a real shift in priorities as a species, but it's, the night is darkest before the dawn.
We got to believe. We got to believe. We got to power through. Like, I was so optimistic when we actually had an African American president, and we actually have a woman vice president. And like, there's progress, and then the things get stripped away, and that's when I think it's like you said, darkest before the dawn. You have to push even harder.
Yep.
And really all hold hands and do it together, because the power in numbers, the Latinos, we're the majority of the minority. Like, are you kidding me? We do not have that kind of representation across the board. And it's just time. It's time to think about women's rights. Really. I mean, how is it possible my niece has less choice than I did at her age? That's unacceptable.
It's just crazy.
That we cannot let it, we can't slide back. People are hanging on for dear life of old norms that really are not letting us evolve. And we have to be more powerful, Baruch, than that. We have to be stronger.
But what you said is exactly right. Hanging on for dear life. It is a fear-driven ideology, a fear-driven movement to try and roll things backwards. It's not, these are not evil people. They are being manipulated by some pretty, I would say, evil people.
They're totally manipulated by media and a lot of.
But by and large, all people want is for things to be okay. And when you're given bad information, false information, and everything you're told appeals to your emotions and not to your intellect, then people stop thinking as clearly about things. But the reality is that thing people want to go back to, the good old days, never existed. It's a fallacy. It's an illusion. And really, let's go forward to the good new days. Like, let's make war obsolete.
Yes.
Let's make caring for the environment and being really pro-life, which is not anti-choice.
Yes, exactly. And racism and classism and sexism, like enough, like make those old past tense words what the beautiful new world could be.
It's so great to know that thousands of people will be registering to vote next weekend at Eljuri's first Concert for Democracy, July 13th, Reese Park in Chicago. All right, let's get back to music. Here is La Voz from Eljuri's album Reflexion.
Parece a principio, cree en la unidad. La voz de la conciencia, la mano de la compasión. La voz de la conciencia, la mano de la compasión. No al cálculo de la razón, la mano de la compasión. No al cálculo de la razón, la mano de la compasión. Yo te ayudo a salir de aquí. Cree en la unidad. La voz de la conciencia, la mano de la compasión. La voz de la conciencia, la mano de la compasión. No al cálculo de la razón, la mano de la compasión. No al cálculo de la razón, la mano de la compasión.
We just heard Injusticia from Eljuri's album La Lucha, and before that, La Voz, The Voice, from Reflexion. And Eljuri is all about people using their voice. Okay, here's the next part of my conversation with Eljuri. This is Paradigms at paradigms.life.
You mentioned gender norms, and I'm a therapist, and so I work with people dealing with all kinds of issues. And the truth of the matter is, I understand, but it's not my lived experience to feel that my body and my gender don't match. But the reality is, for people for whom that is their lived experience, we may not get it, but there's no reason to be unkind.
Exactly.
So why make people's lives more difficult because they're experiencing a reality I may not understand?
It's like, don't be so selfish. It's, when people go, oh, well, I don't need to get an abortion or whatever. Well, then don't.
Right.
I don't want my kid to have transitioned to a different sex. Then don't. Let the person decide. How is that harming you? I don't get it. I just don't get how it harms you if two gay men get married. I don't understand. I really don't.
No. A friend of mine just told me this brilliant story. They were talking with a friend of theirs about transgender folks, and their friend said, well, where did all these people suddenly come from? And my friend said, well, remember when there were no gay people?
Exactly.
It's not that these folks haven't been around, it's that they've been hiding for dear life.
Or a successful Black family.
Right.
Can't talk about that in the history books.
The reality is that human beings are actually really good at thriving. We are really good at loving. We are really good at being kind. These are things we inherently know how to do. We have learned to be the opposite of those things because it profits a few to keep people afraid.
Exactly. So we have to put the energy towards the positivity and mute the negative and slow that down, push that away, the negativity and the selfishness and the intolerance and the injustices. It's just, Yazora.
So you've got concerts coming up, Chicago in July. You've got September in New York.
Different parts of New York we have going on, and we have a couple. Well, our upcoming show is the Levitt Vibe one, and it's in Reese Park on July 13th. Reese Park is in Chicago, and that's going to be awesome, amazing, because we're partnering with a community international Latino organization out of Chicago, as well as our incredible voting rights organizations. Then we're going to do a show in Hudson Valley, New York, which is a whole different part of New York State, a Latinx festival on September 15th. And that one's also partnering with a Latino org. And then we're doing the Círculo de la Hispanidad concert in Long Island, which needs a lot of attention. When we've been meeting with a lot of these organizations and talking about the needs of their community, which is the goal, to get to the people who could get some value out of having these gatherings after the concert. And the draw is like, so come have a good time, and music can hopefully lift you up and draw you there to the concerts. And this organization in Long Island is fascinating how diverse Long Island is, and they really need attention. And I think the Latinos are kind of, again, not really given the attention, and they're a little bit neglected. And then we're also planning to have a fundraiser in New York City to tap all the people we know that care about this important initiative. And that's just kind of be a celebration and a sharing of information and stuff like that. And we have a bunch of other feelers out and possibilities in Delaware and a possibility in actually in California.
You're going to reach thousands of people, which is just fantastic.
Pennsylvania is another one too. Yeah, we're really excited.
So I want to ask you about something completely different.
Okie doke.
What's happening musically? What's happening with you musically?
Oh, musically, I'm crazy busy. We are working on a remix of a song, which I can't reveal what it is, a dance remix, which will be part of the summer's kind of impetus for fun and to support these concerts. And I've been writing new material, so I plan on having recording next year.
Right.
Reflexion came out in 2022. We did US, we did Mexico, and I don't remember if we did Canada. And then 2023, we did more of US, and then we went to Europe for the first time. So that was really exciting, playing in the Netherlands and in Northern England.
Oh, I bet they loved you.
Northern England, we did 6 shows there, and it was fascinating. I talked about what the lyrics are about, and people really were engaged. I couldn't believe how the response. I'm singing in Spanish to a Northern England community, and they were phenomenal. Netherlands too. I mean, we did a bunch of shows, did 3 shows in the beautiful, beautiful countries. But the interesting thing is in the Netherlands, obviously they speak Dutch, but we were also right next to Belgium in one festival and another one. But the language, even though I'm singing in Spanish, after I say a little bit during the concert about what the songs are about, and people still got it. It's always very interesting. I love that about music.
We'll be back with the final part of my conversation with Eljuri after we hear some more music. This one's called Resiste. We just heard Resiste. And now, here's the final part of my conversation with Eljuri.
Well, and in Europe, most people are at least bilingual, if not multilingual.
Yes.
Spanish, French, Italian, these are the Romance languages. So people can suss out at least a little bit. My friends in England, absolutely love you. So
I really did. We're going to see if we can go back this year, but I don't know if we have time. So it's probably going to be after the new album. But
that's great.
yeah, after this concert series, I'm going to be I write all my material and arrange all my songs myself. So I'm going to need like that time to do that. But I'm super inspired. Like, as you said, we don't know what's going to happen in November, but either way, there's still a lot more work to do. In 2 years, we have the midterms.
Right.
You know, you're going to blink. And so we really do want to carry this find your own voice concept into next year's album release, because that's where my head is actually swimming in that world.
Well, and again, like you say, we don't know what will happen in November, but we have the ability to build on things, and we have the ability to resist things.
That's right.
We have the ability to say no.
That's right. And we can be witnesses that speak up cautiously if needed, but still you need to speak up for your neighbor and put your hand out to your neighbor, because that's, again, where the power comes. Then you really are much more powerful united.
Absolutely.
We've seen it in life, how important that is.
You know, and fear of the stranger, fear of the other, fear of that which is perceived to be different. I want to say, yes, that is an old human construct, but the visitor being sacred and the guest being sacred and honored is also a very old human construct. And I like that one better, frankly.
I do too.
Welcome the stranger.
That's open doors. Abre la puerta. Sí, voy a entrar. And again, embrace, learn from each other, grow from each other. I feel like, you know, we really need to evolve. And it's global, these issues we're talking about. They're not just
absolutely
in the U.S. by any means.
Yeah. And, you know, there are people out there who will cite the instances of crime or violence perpetrated by a stranger or a migrant. And the reality is that does happen. There's far more of that perpetrated by your next door neighbor, you know, or the people that are not migrants or strangers. It's just a way to manipulate people into being afraid. And really, who wants to live their life in fear? That's no way to live.
Agree. We have to get rid of the fear focus, and we have to really empower each other to be instruments of change. Being change makers, we can drive people's positive instincts in the direction for that change, and they will be happier for it. You know, if you are following your heart and your soul, and love is leading you, how much different that is than fear and hate and bigotry and everything else, you know?
This is just great what you're doing. I'm so thrilled that you're doing these concerts and these teach-ins and making voting registration easy for people, and that you're out there. I mean, you're one of those people who's just, your life is driven by your conscience and your creativity, and it's just beautiful.
I totally appreciate that, but, you know, it is by looking at examples, you know, I mean, it is like, you know, Bob Marley. It is my mother with her song about trying to make peace between Peru and Ecuador. It is about being, you know, surrounded by people who are open-minded and embrace differences. So it's definitely, the stories that I sing about are stories about things that people have given me. It's a big energy cycle that happens. I'm blessed to be surrounded by people, whether they're fans or friends or loved ones, that are also think that way, Baruch, and people like you that give platforms to positivity.
Yay. Well, we're all in this together.
We are. And it's you have one life that we know of this type, this particular specific situation. Beyond that, I respect your beliefs. And if you're not doing harm to me, I don't understand why you can't respect people's beliefs.
And even if we have many lives, that's no reason to squander this one.
Exactly.
Who knows? I guess we'll find out. Well, Eljuri, thank you so much for talking with me again. Thank you for what you're doing. Can't wait for the next album. Can't wait to hear how these concerts go, and just
very exciting.
Light and love on you.
Igualmente, señor, para ti, todo lo mejor para ti. Everything good for you and your beautiful listeners. And let's be change makers. Let's do it. Let's keep being change makers, actually. Gracias a ti.
Eljuri, it is always a pleasure to talk with you. I just have so much respect and admiration for what you do in the world, musically, politically, personally. These concerts for democracy are going to be so much fun and so effective in helping people register to vote. So important that people vote. We just saw a huge election in England because people got out and voted. So we need that to happen in the U.S. The first Concert for Democracy by Eljuri is on Saturday, July 13th at Reese Park in Chicago. If you're in the Chicago area, I hope you'll go. It's free, it's fun, it's community, and it's people registering to vote. So get out there and register and vote your conscience. Folks, if you'd like to know more about Eljuri's Concerts for Democracy, go to eljurimusic.com/tour-1, or just go to eljurimusic.com to learn more about Eljuri, to hear more of her music, and to learn more about these Concerts for Democracy. Thank you so much, Eljuri, for everything you're doing. And folks, if you enjoyed this episode of Paradigms, I hope you'll visit the Paradigms website, paradigms.life, where you'll find all of our episodes archived, going back to 2009. And if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, you'll see a link to my latest project, an audiobook, Khalil Gibran's The Prophet, narrated by Starhawk. You know, at this point in the world, the sort of polarization between liberal thinking, which is more about acceptance and looking at potential and creating opportunity, and the more authoritarian thinking, which is about creating and reinforcing top-down power structures and focuses more on people being obedient. That split is increasingly visible in the politics of all countries. So we get to really decide what kind of a world we want. Do we want a world where we are told what to do, what to think, how to feel, how to worship, who to love, how to dress, etc.? Do we want a world where people get to be themselves, and where creativity and opportunity and the valuing of both the individual and the group are prioritized? For me, it's a simple choice. How about you? Whatever it is, vote. Vote your conscience. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Paradigms. I am going to leave you with one more track from Eljuri, from her album Reflexion. It's called Keep It Up. And let's let the word for the week be empowerment. Let's empower ourselves and support the empowerment of others in creating the world we really want to live in. So, Baruch, signing off for this episode of Paradigms. We'll be back next time with more inspiring people. Until then, let us empower ourselves and each other, and be well.
Feeling uptight, though everybody's telling me that everything's gonna be alright. Find the time for peace of mind, stop the grind, don't be blind, make it alright. Nada está bien, aunque muchos me dicen que todo va a estar bien. El cambio social es un cambio viral cuando todo está bien. Nada está bien, aunque muchos me dicen que todo va a estar bien. El cambio social es un cambio viral cuando todo está bien. Got to make a move, time to take a stand, ready to grab that dream, freedom's in your hand. Got to make a change, time to find the love, ready to catch the wind and keep it up now. Gotta show up, up. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. Gotta show up, up. Keep it up now. Nada está bien, aunque muchos me dicen que todo va a estar bien. El cambio social es un cambio viral cuando todo no está bien. Nada está bien, aunque muchos me dicen que todo va a estar bien. El cambio social es un cambio viral cuando
listening to Paradigms at paradigms.life.